You'd have to be very brave, or just a little crazy, to live around Mt Pinatubo in the Philippines. Last year, Pinatubo erupted with a vengeance, turning one of the richest parts of the country into something like the gateway to hell. Now, Pinatubo is at it again, and local villagers are fleeing for their lives. But one family has decided to stay put. They're the Turners, Australians who originally went to the Philippines to make money. Instead, they found themselves trying to make life easier for the victims of the volcano. For more than 400 years, Mt Pinatubo lay dormant. Without warning, on June 12 last year, the mountain awoke and exploded. Scientists say no volcano this century has caused such damage, and they have no idea when it will stop erupting. In a country racked by poverty, hundreds have been killed. 800,000 left homeless. And all this just 80 kilometres north of the capital, Manila. That's the volcano erupting right behind us. It's only 10 kilometres away. Now, believe it or not, this used to be a major river which used to flow through here. When Pinatubo exploded, it sent millions of tonnes of debris into the stratosphere. There wasn't a lot of lava. Most of it was lahar. It's a concoction of mud, ash and sand. Now, a lot of that resettled on the mountainside. But then, along came the monsoonal rains and started to push the lahar down into the rivers and the valleys, completely clogging them. Eventually, it was pushed into the villages and the towns.
So, can you tell me where was the entrance to your house under all of this?
Yeah, entrance over there. Entrance. Over there. Someplace. Yeah. That's my entrance.
So your entrance is here?
Yeah.
Yeah. And these trees are in your garden?
That's my garden over there.
Doris Turner is a 38-year-old Aussie mum who came to the Philippines 1 month before the volcano exploded. Now she's in the middle of a disaster area, doing all she can to comfort the victims.
Were you able to get anything out of the house before the mud hit?
I did not get all around.
Nothing?
No, nothing. Clothes and my TV and all things.
So everything is still under here?
Yeah, this is in here.
We had a nice house, you know, friends, school.
A very different lifestyle compared to today.
Completely different from what we have now, yeah.
Just how big a disaster is this for the locals?
Oh, look, it's unbelievable. You and I cannot have a concept what this means. Did that happen the night of the lahar when you were leaving?
Yeah, it's about night at 12 o'clock, at the midnight.
Here, medical teams are few. Medicines are almost non-existent.
Yeah, this is a 3rd-degree burn.
So Doris Turner just had to pitch in and help. She's been a nurse all her life.
Isang tablet, 4 oras.
And never have her skills been needed more.
Yeah, okay. There you go. There you go, all right. And that will stop hurting. Bye. Noel, how many people are living here in the tent city now?
But Doris isn't in this alone. There's also her husband Rod and 7-year-old son Stuart. The Turners set up a scuba diving business in Angeles City, just a few kilometres from the base of the volcano. When it erupted at 7:30 in the morning, Mt Pinatubo put them right out of business.
We were in pitch darkness for the next 18 hours. So it was frightening.
Volcanoes are often referred to as the gates of hell. Is that a fair comparison?
I would say so. There were people during that night saying things like, we're going to blow up and we're not going to be here in the morning and we're going to be buried. So when you saw the sand and the rocks and the ash falling out of the sky, if you were someone who's apt to panic, you would have thought exactly that.
What's happening here is almost beyond comprehension. It's very hard to even imagine the huge scale of damage that Mt Pinatubo is causing. As you can see, the lahar runs down the mountainside and into the villages and buries everything in its path, and then settles like concrete. This used to be a town of about 30,000 people, and many of them are still buried here because there was no time to get out. And the reason is that this stuff travels at between 20 and 60 kilometres an hour. It's no wonder that since the explosion, 700 people have been buried alive.
Close your eyes, when you open your eyes, everything is gone.
Like a wave, like a tidal wave.
Yeah, like a tidal wave.
Angeline and her family have lived here in the town of Dolores for 45 years. Now it's like a modern-day Pompeii, buried under metres and metres of lahar. Do you know any people who died around here?
Yeah, 3 persons over there, the store. They try to save their belongings in the store, but the tidal wave cuts them up.
They were washed away.
They wash them up.
What about children?
I think 3 children over there have buried under the...
They're buried?
Yeah.
The Filipinos estimate that so far 20 million truckloads of steaming lahar have been hurled out of the volcano. But only 15% of it has washed down. The rest is still up there on the mountainside. Any day now, the monsoon rains will send it flooding through even more farmland, even more townships.
There was a lot of silting last year and during the monsoon season, and now more lahar started to come down. The rivers are full, so there's nowhere to go except laterally, outward, and bye-bye villages.
And that's exactly what happened in Dolores just 3 days before we arrived. This is the only cover of the roof coming off, right?
Yes, this is the roof coming off now.
And that house is full of the
this
lahar.
stuff. Yep.
Just full of it.
Yes.
And most of these people got out with nothing.
Nothing.
Just their lives.
The shirts on their backs. That's all.
But there's an even worse case scenario. Mt Pinatubo could actually go up again. So these days, only Filipino Air Force gunships are allowed anywhere near the volcano's awesome crater. The pressure inside is building up. This whole area is now on maximum alert. Level 5, major eruption imminent. How many quakes today, for instance?
Today we have recorded more than 500 quakes.
James Chinchoko is the volcanologist keeping a nervous eye on these latest rumblings from Pinatubo.
Right now, because of the sustained high level, the possibility of an explosive eruption is still great or strong.
In case of eruption and a subsequent big lahar, we estimate to evacuate about 50,000 families.
Every day, there are army briefings planning for the catastrophe to come. 8,000 troops have been moved into the area.
Our problem will mainly be sheltering of evacuees, since our evacuation centers could shelter only about 10% of the projected new evacuees.
Already, those evacuation centres are overflowing. Hundreds of thousands of Filipinos have become refugees. And because there's nowhere else for them to go, they'll be forced to live like this for years.
These people in this centre had no time to take anything out of their house except maybe a few meagre essentials and the clothes they were wearing.
And they're still smiling.
That's the wonder of the Filipino people. You know, they've been through some of the most devastating times, and they're still able to smile and believe in God and know that God will look after them. And it keeps them smiling.
Do you feel that you're making a difference here?
Our belief is if we can help one family, then we've done something. And so far we've done that.
My name's Stuart, and I just want to ask questions.
But there's another, more personal reason keeping the Turners in the Philippines. It's a very practical way for young Stuart to learn a lot more than the 3 R's.
Where do you plan to live in the future?
Saan nyo plano manirahan sa darating na panahon? They don't know where they'll be living in the future.
We've been donating things like food and clothes and toys.
And do you feel good about doing that for people?
Yes,
What makes you feel good about it?
that I'm helping people and that I'm doing things for people.
Would you like to go back to Australia or stay here?
Really, if I wasn't helping the people, I wouldn't want to stay.
I hope that he's learnt a lot, but primarily that life is important and that it is precious.
Doris Turner came to the Philippines with one son who had everything. Now she's mum to hundreds of kids who have nothing. And she's sticking by them, living in the shadow of a disaster just waiting to happen all over again.
She's working very hard and she's being very nice. She's gone into the tent cities and she's helped medical teams and dentists in tent cities.
Are you proud of her?
Yes.
What have the Filipinos taught you out of all of this?
The greatest thing they've taught me is a change in my values and my value system. I would hope that if I go home, I wouldn't be as materialistic as I used to be. That the quality of your life is not dependent on the material stuff. That as long as I've got my family and I've got my health, then I've really got a lot.
Hello, I'm Charles Woolley. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.